Hello everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. Today we're going to be looking at a highly anticipated and highly talked about product, and that is the Trojan deck by Joshua J. That is the effect that we're going to review. It's going to be a media review, one that's going to explain to you a lot of things that you need to know to make a sound purchase. Stick around after the intro. We're going to go directly into a deep dive of the Trojan deck. So you've stuck around, which means that you're interested in learning more about the Trojan deck. Now, what is the Trojan deck? It's essentially in a bare bones kind of form. It's a way for you to add a certain amount of cards onto a freely shuffled deck by a spectator. That's essentially the Trojan deck. That's essentially what the effect does. And what is the routine? There's two routines. That is the main routine by Joshua J. that he performs, and you can see performances on Vanishing Ink or YouTube. I can't perform it myself because it requires a table, a mat, spectators, so I'm not able to perform it for you, but I'm sure you can go into those videos and see what the routine is. If you don't want to go there, I'm going to tell you briefly what it is. You shuffle the deck, spectator shuffles the deck, they cut, they shuffle as they wish, and at the end, cards match into in both decks. The cards match. There's also another routine, which is a multiple selection routine. It's not directly explained in the video. I'm going to explain that a bit later. But it is, for example, 5 spectators select a card. A 6th spectator takes the spectator's cards, places them inside the deck wherever he wants. He shuffles the deck freely, however he wants, gives you the deck on stage. You could be blindfolded, and you can immediately find the shuffled cards. Those are essentially what the Trojan deck routines are. Now let's get into where do you buy this and how much does it cost. So you can buy this at many magic stores, but I bought mine at Vanishing Ink and it costs $75 US. So that's essentially where do you buy it and how much does it cost. Now, what do you get when you purchase this trick? So when you purchase this trick, you get the box right here. Inside of the box, you get a 55 minute long explanation video by Joshua J himself. He's in his, I think in his living room, explaining to you how to perform, how to set up, and get everything ready to go. Now, I do want to touch upon that. This does require a one-time setup. It does require for you to thoroughly watch the video instructions. And when I mean thoroughly, you cannot just place it to the side and listen to it. You have to have your decks in hand, both of the decks, everything that you get in the box right next to you, and listen through the entire thing, because this is not something that you're going to understand like this. It does take a bit of time. The instructions are a bit muddled in certain areas, because he does explain, for example, one thing here, and then as he explains that, he understands that he could explain something else. So he goes into that tangent and then he comes back and he continues. So I do think that if you just listen to this, peripheral vision, you're gonna miss a lot of the instructions. You're gonna get to perform the effect and you're gonna be fully lost. So this is something that you actually have to focus on with your computer, with the decks, fully focused on, and listen to it thoroughly. So that's essentially the video. Then you also get your Trojan deck, which you have to assemble. Now, I'm gonna nitpick here a bit, is because he takes like 8 seconds to explain to you how to glue the box. Now, this is my fault, but I wanna mention this to you too. Once you glue the box, it's almost shut forever. I misglued my box because my box was really stiff. I think I got one of the first batches because I ordered it immediately when it came out. I think in the first 5 minutes I ordered it, and I think I got a fresh batch. So my box was super stiff. I mean, super stiff. So when I glued it, I had to kind of press a bit because it wouldn't glue. So I kind of pressed it a bit and then glued it. And then I realized because it was so stiff, it warped. So my box was warped. It was unusable. So I had to carefully unglue it and then reglue it. So now the box is good, it's good to go. But because I unglued it and reglued it, my box now look like it went through war. Like Joshua J shows you his box that he's been using for like 5 years until it's fine. Look, I'm still using my original box, but that's what my box looks like now, unfortunately. And it's my fault, but I do want to mention, please take your time and do it super, super slowly, because if you do the mistake like me, you can't buy refills. No, 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 you cannot buy refills. So you are going to have to unglue and reglue it. And I'm lucky that I didn't rip my box or damage it more. So keep that in mind. It could have been even worse for me. So please take your time, do it super, super slowly. And like even slower. I did it slowly. Do it even slower. Just that's all I want to say about the Trojan deck and the box itself. Now you also get two normal Phoenix back decks. You get a blue one and a red one. And then you also get a special deck of cards, also Phoenix backed, that is going to let you perform the effect. Now that's what you get inside the box. And I think it's pretty much a disclaimer that this effect uses Phoenix cards. I think that's pretty much self-explanatory that this is a Phoenix-based trick, similar to most Joshua J tricks. I mean, his Prism deck is Phoenix, his Out of Sight is Phoenix. I don't own Inferno, but maybe Inferno is too. So a lot of his effect are Phoenix-based. So if you don't use Phoenix cards and you don't like Phoenix cards, you may be a bit disappointed in this, because yeah, Phoenix are the only brand of cards that can produce the special gimmicks needed for this effect. So keep that in mind. Now, one last thing I want to touch upon, actually two. I saw some comments asking, can you make your own Trojan deck if you so wish? The answer to that is, I believe so. I believe that with just some hot glue or some super glue and some scissors, you can make your own Trojan deck from a bicycle box once you know what it is. However, it's going to be a bit hard for you to fit a deck inside the box. With the special gimmicks and everything you get, you're able to fit almost a full deck inside of the box and make it look like a full deck. However, if you do not have those gimmicks, which Bicycle cannot make, you will have to probably switch in your Trojan deck at some point. So you're gonna have the normal box that you take out at the beginning of your show or your performance, and then as you know, someone shuffles or as you go to take something from your bag or anything, you just casually switch up the boxes. And I think that's gonna fly by the spectators and no one is gonna notice. But I do think that you can do this effect with your own box if you do know how the workings are. Now, the second thing I want to mention is I'm going to go briefly onto it because I don't want this to, to spark the entire Magic community, because I know this was something that happened with Switch One by Christian Grace. I don't want to get into all of that. I know it sparked debates and, feuds. I saw plenty. There was YouTube videos on it, Reddit threads, but it does say here on the box, they shuffle a red deck, you shuffle a blue deck. All 52 cards match. I won't get into it, but that statement, if you take it word per word, as many people took the ad copy for Switch 1-2, that statement is false. I'm going to be blatant about it. I do think that a lot of people do take stuff word for word. If you buy this because you think you're going to be able to show 52 cards matching, I'm sorry, but they don't. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to stop it here. I don't want to go more into it. I don't want to create a feud. I don't want to create anything. But yes, that statement is not true. So that's all I'm going to say. I mean, for your spectators, it's probably going to be true. But for you, if you buy the trick because hoping that's exactly what's going to happen, it is not. All I'm going to say. So I'm going to stop it here. Take that with a grain of salt, but that statement is not true. Yes, you can justify that in the routine for the spectators, it seems true. But I mean, you're selling this for magicians, not for spectators. So I think, putting that out there for people that aren't so aware of what the deck is or how it works, that's all. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to difficulty. That's all I want to say about that. Let's move on to difficulty. Is this difficult to perform? I think it's kind of separated in three categories: easy, intermediate, and hard. It's all three. And let me explain to you why. I think it's easy in terms of, the moves. Nothing is hard. I think your hardest move is going to be cutting a deck. The hardest thing you're going to do is cutting a deck at a specific point. So that's going to be probably your hardest move in either the Trojan deck routine or the multiple selection. So that's going to be your hardest move. Now, why is it intermediate? It's intermediate because it does require a bit of audience management. It does require, kind of you to be invested in the trick, for you to explain things without them seeming a bit fishy or weird. It does require, I think, an intermediate level of performance style. That's what I'm going to say. I do think that if you give this to your buddy that just started out Magic, the trick is going to be awful to watch. It's not going to be good because you do have to deal with certain stuff, especially the statement of 52 cards match. You're going to have to deal with that, and that requires a bit of panache and a bit of, veteranship of performance. And why is it hard? I think it's hard because if you do this blatantly, as the effect is, I think that the effect would be a bit boring. I do think that you do need to find a story, to find something to give it the passion that Joshua J has given it. If you watch Joshua J perform this is a work of art in his hands. It is truly a work of art. The story, how he says it, every single word is justified. Every single word leads to an action with the deck. Every single word fits into his storyline perfectly. And I think that it's going to be hard for most people to find something that is going to fit, the narrative that well. I'm still looking. I'm writing a few scripts on my iPad. I do have some ideas of things that I want to do. Because please don't rip off Joshua J's story. He does even say it in the instruction. It's the real story of how his parents met. Just don't rip it off. Find your own story. Don't, pretend that that's how your parents met. Find something personal to you. That is why I would say this is a bit hard, is that you have to find something that moves you to justify this routine, because it is a strong routine. And I think with a good story and a good narrative, some of the more, kind of harsh moments where you do have to do some certain things with the deck are fully justified. I think that the beats in his story justify everything. So I think that's why it's a bit hard, is that you have to get your storytelling on point. You have to get, your grit upon you to give it a good narrative that is gonna both be enjoyable for you and for the spectator and weave the trick into it. I think that's where it gets a bit hard. Now, let's talk about the practicality. And since this effect is a bit hindered by where to perform, I do want to include practicality and where to perform in the same bracket because they kind of work hand in hand. Because you can only perform this in sitting settings that are either parlor, stage, or where you have your own table and people come to you, kind of like the Magic Castle, or if a lot of people come to your house and you're able to set your table and have like a mini performance space, it works in those settings. This will not be able to do walk around, bars, wedding tables, cocktail gigs, nothing of those. This is fully something you need a table, you need another spectator, you need a small crowd, and you need like a mat or a performing surface for this to work well. So keep that in mind because you will not be able to perform this everywhere. So if you are not someone that performs in those scenarios, this is not a trick for you. I'll put it as blatantly as that. This is not a trick for you. If you just want to perform it at home for your family and friends whenever they come, then okay. But if you wanted to include this in, for example, your strolling set, no, this is not something for that. Pretty much, I'll be as blatant as that. If you don't want to spend $75 on something you just perform for family and friends, then it's not a project for you. As blatant as that and as easy as that. That's all I'm going to say. Now, that hinders practicality because let's say you buy this without, for some reason, after watching the performances, clock that this is a performance piece as a closer for your, professional shows, you're going to be upset because you're not going to have many scenarios where to perform this. And also, you have to carry around 2 decks of cards. So for performers that do perform in stage parlor settings, you have your little luggage like the one that I have. If you're interested to know what I perform, there's an older video on my channel that does show you a small plug, so you can see what I perform on my actual shows. It has changed, but it gives you a small idea. So yeah, it is. You do have to carry around 2 decks, and you do need a specific performance environment in order to get the full grasp of this effect. So please keep that in mind. Now, I think I've pretty much gone into the nitty-gritty of everything. So now let's give some positives and some negatives. What are some negatives of the effect? One, I do think the statement on the box and the ad copy is a bit misleading. But I'm not going to go more into it. I do think that's a bit misleading. Two, this is only a trick to perform for stage and parlor and specific settings. So if you're not a performer of those specific areas, this is not a trick for you and something you're only going to perform for family and friends at home. So that's a second negative. A third negative is that Phoenix deck. I know this is something that happened with a lot of Joshua J products, similar to Out of Sight. A lot of people love the effect, but you just couldn't wrap their head around doing it with a Phoenix deck. So that is another negative, is that it's Phoenix only. If you're not a Phoenix performer, I'm sorry, but everything you buy here is Phoenix based. So those are kind of the 3 negatives that I want to mention. Now let's get into the positives. What are the positives? Going directly from what I mentioned is that you could make this for your own brand of cards. You will have some caveats in the performance and how you introduce it. You won't be able to do it as cleanly as with the Phoenix cards, but you could get away with it. It's not going to be as clean or as incredible, but you could get away with it. That's all I'm going to say. You could get away with it if you make your own deck, especially the multiple selection. That I think you could do it as well with your own made deck. If you make it yourself, if you understand how it works, it's pretty easy. You could perform the same effect with your own made Trojan deck of any brand as the one included here, because in the multiple selections, you don't even need those special cards. You can do it with normal cards. So that effect, you can fully do it normally. However, the Trojan deck effect will kind of get hindered quite a bit and will create a few complications for you, but you can do this with your own made deck. So that's one positive. The second positive is, I think the price is fully justified. I think that if you buy this, I think what you get is fully worth it, because the gimmick deck is sold for $30 separately. You get 2 normal Phoenix decks, which are $5 each, so that's $40 out of the $75 price tag. And then the rest is fully worth it for Joshua J's involvement, dedication, instructions, his love for his project and his creation. So I think that's fully worth it. The price is fully worth it. Third, the effect is magical. It does feel incredible if you perform this as a closer. I do think this will get you standing ovations. Another positive is that it's quite easy to do if you find your good storytelling. Now that's also a positive for me, that it's not given to you. You do have to get your brain working and create a storytelling piece. If you're not someone that does that, this is going to be your opportunity to dive into that and create your own story piece and your own scenario to perform this effect in and to give it the love it deserves. Now that's all I have to say about the effect. Now let's finally round it out with a verdict. Is this something that is worth your money? Yes and no. If you're not someone that will ever perform on stage or parlor, and if you're just a hobbyist, this will probably not be worth your $75, except if you just want to really learn the secret and you just want to, buy it for the sake of supporting Joshua J, then it is worth. But if you're just someone that performs, at bars casually, then this is probably not something you're going to be able to carry around with you and will just sit on your shelf for when guests come for friends and family come to your house, and you'll be able to do it for them. So that's all I have to say about kind of a verbal confirmation of a verdict. And for a numerical confirmation of a verdict, I'll give the whole project, I think, an 8.5 on 10. It is good. It is great. It has some hindrances. So I do have to kind of, dish out points for that. I can't just give it a perfect score, because if you have the perfect setting and the perfect environment and the perfect everything to perform it, it's going to be an amazing piece. It does have caveats for a lot of people. It does have even caveats for people that perform on stage, because I know some people that will never use Phoenix cards because they want to use their own brand of cards. So I do have to, mesh around with those and give it a score that's deserving, and that's not going to just be targeted to certain people that have the perfect, capabilities of performing the effect. And doing that 8.5 is a fair score for this product. I hope that I made you aware of everything in the effect. I hope that I gave you all the information you need, whether or not to click purchase. So thank you everyone for watching. I do hope that my reviews are helpful. I'll be posting Icarus by Christian Grace soon as well. Probably this week you'll get the review of Icarus by Christian Grace. And next week we'll take a look at Rehab Pro and probably some other effects. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.